12 or so ecosystems. 12 or so ecosystems. These ecosystems will have parts of what you see in the traditional economy. They'll also have parts of you don't see, parts of new innovations that are going to come into these ecosystems. There'll be ecosystem around servicing every need that you could imagine for consumers. There'll be an ecosystem around servicing all the business needs of, let's say, small and medium businesses that don't exist today. An ecosystem around all the needs of mobility, not just automotive mobility, all the needs of mobility. We'll dig into a couple of these in a sec. Now, before we dig into these sectors transforming into ecosystems, let's define what an ecosystem is. Here's our definition of ecosystem. Ecosystem is interconnected community of physical and digital entities that come together, sometimes formally, sometimes informally. When they come together formally, maybe there are contractual obligations, and with the sole purpose of serving better consumer propositions by leveraging all the traditional sectoral capabilities, by leveraging digital platforms, and bringing down the cost of doing business. That's how we define ecosystems. Well, let's explore a couple of these ecosystems. Let's first explore a consumer ecosystem I mentioned. Consumer ecosystem is an ecosystem that's fairly established. This is an ecosystem you see a lot of the online capabilities you see in the economy, ecosystem where you have apparels, food and beverage. Also, this is an ecosystem where logistics is a big component of, because to deliver multi-channel, omni-channel experience for consumers within this ecosystem, logistics are a big part of that. You also have the back end, the wholesale aspects, corporate banking aspects that belong to this ecosystem. Now the question is, how would this established ecosystem that's already part of the economy, it's going to evolve? Our view is that this ecosystem, consumer ecosystem, primarily today serves day-to-day needs or month-to-month needs or week-to-week needs today. We think with the technology trends we talked about, with the consumer behavior and expectations we talked about, this ecosystem is going to evolve into serving needs of consumers through passage of time. Through passage of time. What do I mean by that? Well, take me as an example. I love to eat healthy, and I also have a family with the middle school kids. And I like to travel. I love technology. Take all that information around me, not just one bit, but all the information around me, and predict what I might need, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Six years from now when my kids go to college, what do I need? Predict that and proactively offer that. Proactively position yourself to offer that. We believe that's how this ecosystem is going to evolve. There's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity to create value, to drive innovation with these sorts of evolutions. Now let's also explore one more ecosystem, mobility ecosystem. This is an ecosystem we talked about during the day when Kevin was up here. This ecosystem will have the traditional aspects you would think about, the automotive aspects, perhaps insurance, perhaps food and beverage, because as you move, you have needs for food and beverage. But we also believe this ecosystem will have some unconventional parts. Think about furniture sector, subsector, furniture subsector. As cars evolve into places where we won't have a steering wheel, you won't have a dashboard, all of a sudden that space needs to be furnished. So furniture ecosystem, the furniture sector part of this could be part of this ecosystem. Now, again, if you look at what's driving all this, how this mobility ecosystem is going to evolve, Clearly, there are technology aspects to it. We talked a lot about this in the breakouts and on the keynotes during the day. The electrification, autonomous vehicles, the connectedness of the cars and everything around the cars, and seamless and shared mobility aspects. All those technologies, in conjunction with some of the consumer behaviors we talked about, with additional benefits like safety that Kevin talked about, additional benefits like better asset utilization, additional benefits like taking care of congestion problems in big cities. These two forces together are going to create enormous amount of opportunity for innovation and new revenue pools. So on this particular ecosystem, we also did some numbers. The numbers turn out to be, if you just take the two most innovative aspects of this ecosystem, those two are shared mobility, the services that today you consume from players like Uber, Lyft, and others, and connected car generated revenue pools, monetizing the data from connected car. Obviously, these two emerging and innovative revenue pools are pretty small today, very small today. But within 10 to 15 years, we believe these two together can be as big as $1.5 to $2 trillion globally. $1.5 to $2 trillion globally. And these kinds of numbers, these kinds of opportunities is what gives us lots of excitement that this evolution from sectors into a set of ecosystems is really an exciting path that's going to create a lot of opportunities for you all to innovate and drive value and capture some of that value. Now, if you put all this together, what does it really mean from a global economy standpoint? Again, we did some modeling on that too. So, if you add up all the revenues globally, corporate revenues globally, it turns out to be there about $235 trillion. Our modeling suggests, as the economies evolve from sector-based to more ecosystem-based, about 1/4, about $60 trillion worth of those revenues are going to get affected one way or the other. 1/4. That's roughly a little more than 3 times the GDP of US economy. And if you do a further math on this, and if you look at deriving margins, and also take into account some of the cost of capital and cost of equity, and derive a number for economic profit, it's about $1 trillion worth of economic profit. Again, $60 trillion worth of revenue at stake through this evolution, about $1 trillion worth of economic profit that's going to get disrupted as you evolve from sectors that are blurring borders to these 12 or so ecosystems going forward. Now, this is all great, so what do you do about this? What are the implications for you all? Well, we believe there are 3 implications for you. Number 1, you really have to adopt an ecosystem mindset. What do we mean by that? Well, think about who can come in and blur the lines of the sectors that you're in. Think ahead on who can help you, perhaps to blur the lines yourself, and drive innovation through, not just by yourself, through a set of ecosystem partners. We urge you to think beyond traditional M&A, beyond traditional partnerships, and I'll give you a couple of examples. To drive better value through loyalty programs. In the US, there is this loyalty consortium that got put together. It's called Plenty. I'm sure some of you are aware of that. That's a good example of adopting ecosystem mindset. Plenty has several really non-traditional players that are trying to form an ecosystem to drive value. That's number 1. Second, empower and embrace data. Don't think about the data in terms of what you have today. Think about the data that you have and think about what other data sets that complement the data you have. That's where the power of your ecosystems come in. When you take the data you have, you complement your data with other data systems, and then leverage everything we talked about, technology trends and consumer behaviors, and that's going to put you in a much better place. And lastly, as you evolve, as ecosystems evolve, building emotional ties, building real tight bonds with your customers is as important as ever before. And in fact, we would argue this ecosystem evolution will give you more opportunities to get closer to customers, to form those bonds that you need. So as you move forward, as the economy transforms into this nice little view of sectors to more into ecosystems, driven by the trends we talked about, technology and consumer trends, you all have choices to make. Are you going to be one of the threads in the picture behind me, key threads that's forming the ecosystem? Or are you going to be one of the knots in the middle of the ecosystem that's orchestrating the ecosystem, shaping and forming the ecosystem? You have a choice to make. Don't sit on the sidelines. Choose wisely. Time is now. Thank you very much.